Now, I love a good Homelab tour just as much as the next guy, but I realized recently that somehow I've never really done a proper end-to-end tour of my own. So it's probably about time I put that right. Now, if you spend any time on YouTube or Reddit, you'll have seen some absolutely beautiful Homelabs with gorgeous cable management and immaculate racks with everything labeled and everything perfectly in its place. Basically works of art. You know the ones I mean. Mine is not that. You'll see what I mean in just a minute. But this is the hardware that I actually use to run all my stuff, and it's just been built up over time. It powers this channel, it powers my self-hosted services, my self-hosted life, my home network, all of my storage needs. So when I'm editing a video behind me, the 10 gig link that goes down to my NAS in the basement, all the compute, all the backups. Basically, my entire digital life runs out of that basement. So today we're going to go through all of it. I'll go through the hardware and some of the software choices around the clustering stuff that I'm doing with Proxmox. I'll link to as much as I can down in the description. And if there's anything you see along the way that you think deserves its own deeper dive video, let me know in the comments and I'll take a look. All right, let's go and see my basement. So this is my Homelab. It's probably one of the most unglamorous Homelabs you'll see on YouTube, but it's real. It's fully functional and it does everything and more that I need it to do. So let's walk you through what's in the various racks here. This is a wooden rack that I built, I don't know, 5+ years ago now. It's just screwed into the studs above my head, the joists, I guess, the floor joists. And before you worry too much about the insulation here not being closed in, the only time I spend down here is to make videos. And I don't really make many videos, or when I'm doing a little bit of maintenance on the rack. So I'm down here maybe 5 or 10 minutes a month. So I'm really not too worried about the insulation. I know some people will comment about that, so I thought I'd just head it off at the pass. But essentially this rack is just basically screwed in. You can see in 2 or 3 places to the joists above it. And it is solid. It ain't going anywhere. And I bought these Gatorworks. I'll put links to everything in the description, of course. I bought these Gatorworks, like metal rack ears, rack mount things that have got threads in them. And then there's just these screws you buy that go with them. They screw into the threaded, so I don't need cage nuts or anything like that. And these just screw directly into the rack. So let's work from the top down, because I think one of the more interesting things is this cloud gateway fiber up here. This is a UniFi box, of course. It's a multi-purpose UniFi box. This is where my internet comes into the house, and you can see at the back here I have a little fan on top of the gateway fiber, because there's one of those WAF 110s in there, because my AT&T fiber comes in from the street just here, and then it runs into the back directly of the cloud gateway fiber, rather than this ugly beast down here. This is the ISP provided router modem firewall combo box of crap that they send us. I don't know, I'm being rude about it. It's not that bad. It's got like Wi-Fi 7 and all that kind of stuff. But as you can see, I've got plenty of other networking stuff going on here, so I'm not really going to be too worried about using that AT&T box over there. The WAF 110 runs OpenWRT, and I have a video about that, which I suppose I'll link in the corner right now. And this thing also runs the UniFi control software. You can also fit inside of it an NVMe SSD, so you could run UniFi Protect on this thing too. So it's a really powerful, really small, there's a lot in a small package with this box. It's also got 3 SFP, no, it's got 3 10 gig capable ports that are all individually usable all at once, as well as I think 4 2.5 gig ports on the back. So the thing with this Cloud Gateway Fiber box is you could essentially bring in your WAN connection on one of the 2.5 gig ports, because each port you can individually assign to be a WAN port if you want it to be. And then use the 3 10 gig ports, a combination. I think there's 1 copper and 2 SFP plus ports back there. You could use that combination to have pretty much a Homelab in a box with just this one thing, with Protect and running your UniFi software and also a couple of 10 gig clients. It's a really, really great little box. I have zero complaints about it. You can even see, look, 88 clients just through this one little box right here. It's not a touch screen, but it's got a little screen on the front, so at least you know it's alive. Next to it, I have an Anker power station thing. This is actually running the 3 Lenovos down here. So I have these 3 boxes. These are M90Qs, and we'll come to these in just a moment. But I have these 3 running just off this single Anker box, and I can control the power to this using an app on my phone, which I'll put on screen right now. And one of the important things to note about this power supply is that when you switch one port, it doesn't then switch all the other ports off at the same time. Sometimes these USB chargers will reset, or it's just a few milliseconds, but it's enough to interrupt the power to all the other gear. So this one, I can turn off port 1 and ports 2 and 3 will stay active and stay live, which is really great. I can also then feed in this power data, which you can see is updating pretty regularly, into Home Assistant, and get a good idea of what each of the Lenovo boxes is actually doing. So below that is just a standard PDU with, I don't know, 10 ports on it. It's not a smart one. I used to have one of the UniFi PDU boxes, but late last year we decided to sell the house. So I sold a bunch of this gear. I sold a bunch of the gear that was in this rack, which is why, honestly, I used to have a wooden rack right here, made of 2x4s and plywood, that this box and a couple of other 19-inch rack mount, like server chassis, used to sit in. But I sold all that because we were going to move back to England, and then nobody bought the house. So I've been limping along, such as it is, with this setup, which has worked out really, really well. And as part of that downsizing motion, what I wanted to do was have a small cluster of compute nodes with a lot of RAM, a lot of storage, and do some clustering. So these are the M90Q from Lenovo, and these have got i5 10500T CPUs in them. They've got 64 gigs of RAM each. So what's that? 192 gigs of RAM just in those 3 nodes there. It's my retirement there, right? These days. Also, one of the things I like about the M90s versus, say, the 720Qs, which you can see from my labeling scheme, I used to have in this position, but I upgraded these late last year before things went too crazy, is that the M90Qs have dual NVMe slots on the bottom. I'm not actually using both of them right now, but I'm booting from the main NVMe, I think it's just a 128 or a 256 gig NVMe just inside as a boot disk running Proxmox in a cluster with HA and everything else like that working for me as well. I've then also got in here PCIe risers to have these 3 nodes all have SFP plus connections, which all run through to the 10 gig aggregation switch just down here. So each of these nodes is running Proxmox with a 1 terabyte NVMe SSD in a Ceph cluster, which has been really, honestly, amazing. I've woken up, in fact, just a couple of weeks ago, I had to replace, I thought I had it down here, but I don't. I had to replace one of the NICs in this box right here, the SFP Plus NIC, overheated, hence why this fan is here now. And Ceph just recovered and just healed itself, you know. So I've got these 3 nodes here in a cluster, along with this one down here with another 1 terabyte SSD in it. So I basically got a 4-node cluster aiming to be a minimum available of 3 nodes active. So there's a redundancy built in right from the beginning. So these nodes are amazing. They have a lot of RAM, they have a lot of compute for self-hosting needs. Honestly, when do we ever run out of compute? It's always RAM or disk that we run out of. And these things, they're just built to last, and they run nice and cool. Like if I look right now at my temperatures for these nodes, I'm going to text my Hermes bot and ask it what the temperatures are in that box, which, by the way, Hermes is running down here on the Framework desktop, which we'll get to in just a minute. M90Q cluster. Literally, this is how I Homelab these days. I use Hermes, which is hooked into an OpenAI codec subscription, and then it will just tell me what the cluster temps are in just a second. Whilst it's figuring that out, let's talk a little bit about the PiKVM that's right here. This is the productized version of the PiKVM, which I think I got on a half-price clearance deal from cloudfree.shop, which was a company that sponsored the self-hosted podcast for a little while. So this is a 4-port IPMI KVM switcher. So none of these well, actually these do have vPro. So I probably don't really need the PiKVM, but I just like it so much that I just keep it around. This runs an Arch-based distro, an immutable Arch-based distro, and it switches between the 3 nodes in software really, really nicely. I really cannot say enough good things about the PiKVM. It's a fantastic device. Maybe, I mean, you can see the rat's nest of cables back here. Maybe, if I'm being picky, the fact that they aren't an integrated chassis means that there is a slightly unnecessarily complicated cabling setup back here, because you've got power coming in and then you've got to split the USB and yada yada. But once it's wired up and set up, it all works bulletproof reliably, which is what you want. So moving down in the rack, this is all just sat on a single 1U shelf, which, as you can see, is actually taking up maybe 2 or 2.5 U's worth of space with these 3 Lenovo nodes right here. Beneath it is a UniFi aggregation switch. This is a layer 2 SFP plus 8-port switch here. So this is where all of my 10 gig clients come in right here. Well, not all of them. We'll get onto that in just a minute. And then below that is the patch panel for the house. So over the years, I've been running Ethernet throughout this house, and you can see I've got things like the media server IPMI, old bonus room cable, which I replaced several years ago with fiber, and I've been very happy with the fiber since. My core Raspberry Pi 5 is actually upstairs now, and there's a ZimaBoard here in its place, which we'll get to in just a minute. I meant to have my solar panels, my inverter, connected via Ethernet, but I never got round to it. But I have a port there ready for it one day. And then everything else throughout the house is connected through Ethernet so far as I can manage it, and neatly labeled, of course. So we've then got things like the runs to the rest of the house here, like the bonus in the attic. It's where I film all the videos and everything else like that, coming into this beautiful, beautiful USW Pro Max 48 PoE switch, which, as you can see, is, for my needs, hilarious overkill. I'm probably not even using half of the ports that are available here, but I am using all 4 of the 10 gig SFP plus ports. Now, this thing I got for an absolute screaming deal on Facebook Marketplace. I've no idea why the guy that sold it to me sold it. I think I paid like $400 for this thing. I have no rights to pay so little for such an amazing switch. But it's got 16 ports of PoE plus. So every single port on here is PoE. These are PoE plus. Actually, it's up to 24 ports of PoE plus, gigabit ports. It's then got 8 ports of PoE plus plus at gigabit, so you could power more hungry, I don't know, UniFi cameras or anything that just needs a bit more juice when it comes to the PoE side of things on these 8 here. All of these ports here these 16 are 2.5 gig Ethernet ports. These 8 are PoE plus, and these 8 are PoE plus plus ports. It's a bit confusing to say out loud, but it's pretty simple once you get the hang of it. I have the WAN coming into a 2.5 gig port here because I have 2 gig symmetrical fiber at this property. So that comes directly into 2 gig here. And then this is the main, because this switch is a layer 3 switch versus the AG that is only layer 2, this can do intelligent VLAN routing between all the different VLAN, layers, if you want to think of it like that. So rather than having to go out all the way to the edge and back and route all of the VLAN interlink traffic, interrouted traffic through the cloud gateway at the top, which probably isn't going to be able to route that kind of performance, it all goes through the 48 PoE down here. So it's a layer 3 4-port SFP plus switch that just happens to have all of these extra gigabit and what have you ports as well. It's great, honestly, because my cameras are on a dedicated VLAN. My Wi-Fi broadcasts several VLANs at the same time, so I can connect things on video nice and easily. It's fabulous. I mean, I'd probably be reluctant to pay the $1,000+ price tag for this thing that UniFi want for it brand new. But boy, howdy, is this a great switch. The UniFi USW Pro Max 48 PoE. Wonderful, wonderful switch. Below that is the UniFi NVR. I don't know what version it is. Might be the Pro, it might not be. Anyway, you can see it's got 4 drive bays. I've only got 3 of them populated right now with 4 terabyte drives that I was about to throw in the skip, honestly, last year.
because they were basically junk. And then honestly, 3 4-terabyte drives is obviously 12, but then with RAID, it's probably somewhere in the region of 7 or 8 terabytes usable space. The UniFi Protect software runs directly on this NVR box, and it is a big box. I mean, look how far back that thing goes. It's by far and away the biggest, chunkiest box I have in this rack. It gets kind of warm too. The Pro Max switch is also a little bit chunky. Can I show you that around the side here? Oh yeah, the Pro Max, sorry, is the big one. Look at that. And then the NVR is this one here. So Pro Max, and then the NVR's back here. The back of this rack is a little bit like Homer Simpson. You know, when he has the back fat meme. But I don't know. It does what I need it to do. Like, it's not going to win any beauty contests, but then neither am I. So it does the trick. NVR, I'm very happy with UniFi. I've switched out recently to a UniFi doorbell as well. I had a Reolink PoE doorbell for a long time, but the alerts weren't quite reliable with the UniFi software. So I've switched out now to all the UniFi cameras apart from a couple of Reolinks that are just on the side of the house. And I'm extremely happy with Protect. It's a wonderful piece of software. Very happy. No subscription like Blue Iris or anything like that. And I don't need a separate, well, I suppose I do need a separate box, but I used to have a dedicated Blue Iris machine sat here, but I don't anymore. All right, let's move on to the bottom. This is the Framework desktop. They very kindly sent this over late last year, I think, just before everything went crazy. It's got 128 gigs of RAM in it. It's Strix Halo, so I run a lot of machine learning. My Hermes runs on here. I do a lot of local AI, kind of just messing about. This is, again, it's a Proxmox node in a cluster. So I have a 5-node Proxmox cluster with this guy, which is the media server, which we'll come on to in a minute. The Framework desktop, and then the 3 Lenovos up here. So it's a 5-node cluster, which means I can take things down really pretty reliably. And things come back up. So my main dev VM lives on here, my Hermes lives on here, and then if I'm spinning up demos for YouTube or anything like that, I'll do them on here because it's the fastest box that I own. Like, it's got Gen 5 NVMe storage in it. It just chomps through workloads. It runs fairly warm in this Framework desktop case. I don't actually love this case all that much. It's got this weird little port on the side here. Let's see if I can slide it out a little bit. It's got this weird little port on the side here. It's like a power supply intake here. And it has a Flex PSU sort of sat. It's probably a little reflective, isn't it? So it's got a Flex PSU sat here, which is what you need for it to fit inside of this little case. But if I put my hand here, like the plexiglass, the acrylic side panel, not glass, by the way, is very, very warm to the touch. And I've added an extra 80mm fan at the front there, which doesn't come as stock from the factory, in addition to the 120 over the CPU, which does come as stock. When I'm running AI, tasks on this thing, it gets really surprisingly and almost alarmingly warm, to be honest with you. It performs pretty well. I've never had any issues with it, but I would probably over time like to consider putting that in a proper 1 or 2U chassis so that it gets the airflow, so that the components just have that longevity that you'd want from something that's a critical piece of your infrastructure. Okay, Framework desktop's a pretty cool machine. It's got 5 gig Ethernet in the back of it, not 10, so yeah. Oh, and another thing that I don't like about this case is that there is a 4X or maybe an 8X PCIe slot in this motherboard, but you can't use it because the case doesn't have the cutout. I don't know if you can see that through the plexiglass, but it doesn't have the cutout for you to use a PCIe card. So strange. There are just some strange design choices with this thing. Bit weird. All right, moving on to the ZimaBoard. This is something that they sent me a couple of years ago now, which I never actually did a video on, which, well, I guess I'm doing one now. This runs my core services, so my AdGuard Home, my VIP, so a virtual IP, my Caddy reverse proxy runs on this thing. This is basically mirrored with a Raspberry Pi 5 that's in a rack in my office upstairs, both on a UPS. And if you've never used one, Keep Alive D as a VIP is a really easy way to have one IP on your network with 2 or more nodes behind it. So basically, I don't have to worry about Proxmox being up in high availability for the clustering for my reverse proxy with Caddy to be alive and well. I never talked about Home Assistant. That's not running on this thing. Home Assistant is running on node number 2 in this cluster. And Home Assistant powers an awful lot of stuff in this house, so that's a very important node up there. But anyway, I digress slightly. The ZimaBoard is running just, I think, vanilla Debian 13, nothing fancy whatsoever. It's booted from a 128 gig 2.5-inch SATA SSD on the bottom. These devices, they've just got a slightly weird form factor to them. You know, they've got an exposed PCIe slot on the side of them. I have some ZimaBoard 2s upstairs, which I've got a video coming on at some point in the future, maybe. And then you've got two, I think these are 1 gig, and then on the ZimaBoard 2s, they're 2.5 gig NICs. So you could conceivably use this to run like pfSense or something like that if you wanted to. As you can see, I'm just using it to run my VIP and a few core services and things like that. So really like this board. Honestly, it's just quiet. It does its thing. No fuss. You know, it's pretty cool. Coming back to the Hermes Homelab temperatures and stuff like that, you can see that the temperatures of my M90Q cluster, 37, 41, that node in the middle, gets a little warm in the sandwich up there. But overall, 32 degrees. Yeah, pretty happy with that. And honestly, Hermes has really changed how I Homelab. Really, I can't overstate that. I know some of you will have opinions about AI, but it does amazing stuff, honestly. Alrighty, let's come down to the media server down here. This is really the box in my life that starts everything. This has 10 3.5-inch spinning Rust hard drives in the front of it. And I'm a little nervous, honestly, of one of these things failing these days, because there are 3 18s in there and therefore 7 20 terabyte disks, I guess. They're all running in a ZFS pool that's split between, well, there's 5 disks in each pool, so one pool has 1 18 and one pool has 2 18s in it, to split the load across these things. This is running in a Sliger CX4712, and the front panel, I actually modded it slightly. You can see here I've got this kind of like mesh thing on it, and I got some magnetic, self-adhesive magnetic tape that just sticks to the front of this mesh stuff, and I just cut it with a pair of scissors and stuck it on the front. And honestly, the inside of the case, let's take a look at that, because I haven't looked inside this thing for, well, must be getting on for 6 months, maybe more. It's very, yeah, there you go. Looks nice and clean. You just never know. You never know what you're going to see when you open a computer, do you? All right, so inside this thing, there's a lot going on in here, actually. In terms of like the PCIe layout and everything else like that. I should probably do a separate video, but the overview is, this is a 700 or 850 watt Seasonic Prime Gold power supply hooked up to an i5 13600K, I think. 64 gigs. I wish I'd upgraded that to 128 late last year, but I didn't. I thought 64 gigs of ECC memory was plenty. Lord knows, I wish I'd upgraded that sooner. Anyway, I didn't. This is an NVIDIA A4000, not the current gen, the previous gen A4000 GPU that I use for things like media transcoding. I do a bunch of Olamus because I bought this before the Framework desktop came. And it uses 7 watts at idle, so I'm not worried about replacing it or anything like that. It just does what I need it to do. The next card is an SFP Plus card. That's this one right here. That's the main 10 gig link for this server. Then there's an NVMe drive in here, which I think is a 4 terabyte NVMe. Oh, it might be a 1, I forget. Along with an HBA that connects up to the actual spinning Rust drives at the front of the server. So those of you that know anything about HBAs will know that the HBA can only connect up 8 drives, or at least this one can only do 8, which means I need to have a couple of SATA connections right down here. Those two red wires there go to a couple of SATA SSDs at the front, and then the rest of the onboard SATA controller, which is just behind this cable right here. These SATA connections here go to mostly the spinning Rust at the front of the server, but then these Sliger cases have this nice little sidecar thing down the front, and I got a couple of SATA 2.5-inch SSDs, which do a bunch of stuff for me with unpacking media and downloads and stuff like that. I've then got just sort of, it looks worse than it is, I'll be honest. But these two U.2 are two U.2 4 terabyte drives, and that's where I run a lot of virtual machines and stuff like that on this box, because I don't really power this up and down very much at all compared to the other stuff. And they run directly into the motherboard SATA controllers here. So these are M.2 to U.2 like breakout cables that run around the front there. It's a pretty cool system, to be honest with you, if I do say so myself. And I really like this thing. It does everything I need it to do. It stays cool, it's quiet. I am considering downgrading from a 10 drive ZFS setup though to something that's a little smaller, and then just keep the other drives kind of just in reserve, you know, like what happens when one of these things fails. I'm going to be out a small third world country's deficit, you know. Oh, the other thing I should show you is the UPS down here. This is a fairly standard unit, I think. It's an APC unit. What are we pulling in terms of power down here? 350 watts, give or take, to run everything that you can see in this rack, which I don't think is too bad, to be honest with you. So that's my Homelab, guys. You know, it's a pretty humble setup, honestly. I don't think, like I say, I don't think it's going to win any awards in a beauty contest or anything like that. But, you know, it's mine, and it does everything that I need it to do. They're really... What else am I going to do with a Homelab besides put a massive piece of metal rack right here, whereas this honestly does everything that I need it to do, and it has done now for several years. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed my Homelab tour. If you want to know anything more about like the services and the actual software side of things that I'm doing with like the clustering and all the Docker containers that are running on these things, you know, all of my media downloads and stuff come in through this setup as well, along with like all my document management system, and like Nextcloud is running here. There's a bunch of stuff. But I thought I'd show you the hardware and sort of talk a little bit about through what's going on in the rack today. So thank you so much for watching. That was my Homelab tour for mid-2026. Until the next one, I've been Alex from KTZ Systems.